Ooh, boy. Gen 3. We moved from...
Motherfucking best goddamn region. I don't care who you are.
Okay.
You see this list of fucking games? It's crazy.
Like the Hoenn region is the best region, or this is the best generation?
Yes, but also Gen 3 as a whole.
Okay.
We're talking Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. We're talking Fire Red, Leaf Green. We're talking Coliseum and XD.
Okay.
We're talking Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire. We're talking Mystery Dungeon, Red and Blue Rescue Team. We're talking the first Ranger, and we're talking Dash.
That's a lot of good games.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, we better start with the actual mainline games because I feel like those we went more in depth on them in our Pokemon retrospective video that you can find on David's gaming channel. And watch that because we have part 1 and part 2 out, and we don't have part 3. We have not recorded part 3.
Part 3 is not happening.
I mean, if enough of you watch part 1 and part 2, dude, tell people on your music channel to watch.
Bro, if it gets 50 views, we'll do a part 3.
All right, if part 2 gets 50 views, then we'll do a part 3. But we went pretty heavy into our thoughts on the mainline Generation 3 games. But we can dip back into them a little bit here. I think Pokemon, the 3rd generation, was super impactful for me because Pokemon, the 2nd generation of games, Silver, Gold, those are the only 2 that I played. They were responsible for my initial discovery of Pokemon and my time spent alone playing it. But Generation 3 was the generation that brought me closer together with other people. Yeah, because I remember... Oh. Excuse me. I remember on the Game Boy SP, that's when I got a link cable, and that's when I discovered friends of mine who had Pokemon and were... and I was able to play with them and talk about Pokemon, yourself included, because I didn't really know that I didn't know that you played Crystal. I didn't know that you were into Pokemon. And then Generation 3 came out, and all of a sudden I was talking to all my friends about what their favorite starter was and what their favorite Pokemon were, and I was like drawing Pokemon, and then Fire Red and Leaf Green came out, and it was like a whole like rediscovery of Kanto in these new with the new graphical capabilities of the Game Boy SP or the Game Boy Advance, and I went so hard on those games, as I'm sure you did too, and a lot of y'all out there did. And I guess as far as playtime goes, this is the generation that definitely got the most out of me. Was Generation 3, probably because it was at the perfect intersection of like me having the most amount of time to myself because I was just in school, and the highest interest in Pokemon, at least before high school. Like Generation 3, that the hype was real. Blaziken and Torchic, like the Torchic line, is still my favorite starter line to this day. I'm like, I just getting to grow, like when my Blaziken learned Blaze Kick and Sky Uppercut, I was like, did I just get 2 exclusive moves? This is amazing. This firefighting chicken is gonna get me through the Pokemon League, and it did. And then I got Kyogre because I started with Sapphire, and I gave that motherfucker Thunder and Surf and like Ice Beam, and like those 2 carried me every time I like ran through the Elite Four. I'm trying to think of what else I really enjoyed from the Gen 3 games. I never played Emerald.
Yes, you did.
Well, okay, yeah, until I didn't play Emerald as a kid.
Until I forced you to.
Until David forced me to. But it was still super fun.
Man, I went hard. Okay, I started with Fire Red, which we'll get to
in a little bit,
in a couple of minutes. But yeah, Ruby was game number 3, and I went ham on this motherfucker. The soundtrack,
yeah,
the horns, goddamn Petalburg City. Such an underrated song. But yeah, my homie, we got Trico, Sceptile, Grovyle. Even
Yeah.
Grovyle's a badass.
Grovyle is cool.
Probably objectively cooler than Sceptile, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
grass types have a tendency to be cool in their second stage.
Yeah, Team Magma, like land versus water. Like, we're talking continental battles.
You know, we had separate enemy teams for the first time.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Motherfucking Wally.
Wally.
What a loser.
Hey, all right.
Okay, he gets a Ralts. That's
Wa-
his first Pokemon.
Yeah.
The only move it knows is Growl. How did you train it? You
Yeah.
ain't beating no Pokemon.
That's a good question. Through the power of friendship.
What are you going through all the growls and using struggle, throwing potions at Ralts every time it gets like too low in health? It's the only way.
Maybe. That just shows Wally's dedication. I will say, I am glad that you get to like Wally gets his own like true boss fight in the remakes in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but that's for Gen 6. That's for our Gen 6 talk, but
We got Latios.
yeah.
Favorite Pokemon ever. I don't know why. I like blue.
Yeah, Latias became one of my favorite legendaries too. I really liked getting to use Surf. I gave all my Pokemon Surf. Any Pokemon that could learn Surf, I fucking gave it to them. So,
Surf was OP. OP
Yeah.
as hell.
yeah, it like barely missed, and it like there are so many types that are weak to water. Yeah, my Latias, it would like between Blaziken, Latias, and Kyogre, I had one of my favorite teams, at least of just 3 Pokemon, for a really long time.
Goddamn.
You got the Battle Frontier
Not yet.
and Pokemon Emerald.
Oh yeah, that came later. But I was just talking about basic Ruby.
Oh, basic Ruby.
Groudon's badass.
Yeah.
Rayquaza is cool. The whole trip up to Pillar Tower, I forget what the actual thing is called. Such a pain in the ass when you have to get the bike and go over the things. I had Sapphire for a bit, but I was an angry child, and I lost to Wobbuffet in the Pokemon contest, so I broke it. Oh man, yeah, I broke Sapphire, broke Yellow.
Oh my God.
I think it was just those two.
If only you had the foresight to see how expensive those games are now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very true, especially with the boxes.
Oh yeah, I still have
Leaf green.
yeah. I still have, I mean, I guess this is a good segue because I think Emerald came out after Fire Red and Leaf Green, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I gotta dust this. But yeah, this is the original box from when I got Pokemon Leaf Green. I'm surprised my mom didn't throw it away, but it's got the manual in there.
That's worth like $200 right there.
I mean, it's in terrible condition, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a really cool relic, and I had Fire Red at first, but I had to get Leaf Green because one time I lost my Game Boy Advance SP, and it had Pokemon in it. It had Pokemon Fire Red, and I was very distraught. And then that day, we were about to go to a party for my mom's friend, but she went out and she bought a new Game Boy for me with, I think it was this game. She bought a new silver Game Boy SP for me and like a new Pokemon game, and I was so ecstatic. I have very vivid memories of playing Pokemon Sapphire like for the first time, and my mom was like, "All right, we got to go somewhere," and I was like, "Okay." And as long as I could bring my Game Boy, I didn't care where we went. I didn't care what chores we had to do. I was just so engrossed by Pokemon. Yeah, dude. And then Fire Red and Leaf Green comes out, and all of our friends are like getting back into Generation 1, which some would call the best generation, but you know, you got Voltorb, one of the worst designed Pokemon fucking ever, and then it evolves into an upside down Pokeball.
Yeah, but the theory that it's a Haunter that possesses a Pokeball is kind of cool because they have the same eyes.
Oh my god,
It's kind of cool.
I think it's only because Ken Sugimori, I think he was just the artist, but the design team making Pokemon at the time, they were like, all right, Pokemon are either going to have dots for eyes or they're going to have the Haunter eyes, and that's it. And there's, several, maybe a couple in between.
I remember being so disappointed when I played Leaf Green. I still remember the Christmas I got it on. Opened up my present, and it was leaf green. I was like so fucking excited.
Yeah.
I ran downstairs to play it, and I was like, "Oh, this is the same game as Fire Red," because that was the first time I had like the other one, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, it's just the same thing."
Yeah.
Which it is, but different Pokédex or whatever.
Yeah. It took me a long time to get the other version of something. I think it was Red Rescue Team, and I never had Red Rescue Team. I only had Blue Rescue Team. But that was cool that one was on the Game Boy and one was on the DS.
And if you look at the artworks, it's like one of them they're looking in a hole, and the other one they're in the hole looking up, so they're like looking at each other.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
It's very and then Red Rescue Team they're on top and they're looking down.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, bro, and then fucking Emerald comes out. Oh my god.
And I never played Emerald.
All 3 legendaries. The goddamn Battle Frontier.
Yeah.
Hands down the most time I've ever put into like a Pokemon thing. Trying to get the goddamn badges. I got 3 of them.
Yeah.
I never beat... I got to the Pyramid guy a couple times, but I never could beat him because it was hard as hell. And the Pyramid, oh my god. I can't do that shit anymore.
Yeah.
Last time I tried to play it, I was like, this fucking sucks. I hate this.
Yeah, I had only recently discovered the Battle Pyramid or the Battle Frontier, but they had one in Platinum too, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Which is cool, but not the same. It was not the same. And what else we got on that list?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on Mystery Dungeon.
Yeah, Mystery Dungeon, holy fuck. I put so much time into Mystery Dungeon, and I put so much time into Pokemon Mystery Dungeon because I had like I just said, I had Blue, so I had on the DS, and just taking the quiz and figuring out what Pokemon you were. Oh my god, I didn't even have a Pokemon that I really wanted to be. I think on the first try, I can't remember if it was my first try or if I like took it multiple times and I settled. But I got Squirtle, and I had never really had any particular feelings about Squirtle up until that point. But now Squirtle is my favorite Gen 1 starter. And any chance that I get to like get a Squirtle in any sort of game and get a Blastoise Blastoise is so cool. But I got a Squirtle, and like I was saying, Torchic is my favorite starter line. So instead of getting to play as Torchic, I made him my partner. So it was Squirtle and Torchic, and I forget what my team name was, but it was very silly and it was very very juvenile. You know, I didn't have I took it so seriously because I was like, we're playing as Pokemon. This is the coolest thing ever. I would be a Squirtle. And at the same time, they released an animated episode, like an anime episode.
I forgot that existed.
Yeah, I remember watching that live. Like as it happened, I was shitting my pants. Because it followed a Charmander, a Squirtle, and a Chikorita. And Chikorita ended up being my favorite grass starter. But at the time, there were only like 3 starters. Or 3 generations. So like, Generation 3 was also the time in my life that I went to a Pokemon like convention. And it was downtown. I think they did like a Pokemon Center pop-up shot. Like I think that's what it was, just in Chicago. I have pictures of me, my chubby little self, with a mascot of Munchlax and Pikachu. I have a little frame with Ash and Brock and May and like all of their Pokemon and Max. Like a picture frame with that picture in it. I bought a stuffed Groudon, like a Pokédoll. Like it wasn't like a proportionally correct stuffed plushie. It was like a Pokédoll that you would get in the game. One of the best days of my life, and I barely got to do anything because my family was so concerned with like spending as little time as possible in there because my mom was like, I don't have money to buy you all this shit. Buy one thing. And I begged her to get a plushie, and I think I got Groudon because he looked the coolest. Anyway, yeah, so Mystery Dungeon, I spent so much time in that game. Like the replay value of that game, I would argue, is entirely in two things. One, getting recruiting all the legendaries, but also when you recruit a Pokemon, there's only like a 30% chance that you'll recruit them. And I am not kidding when I tell you the highest the highest amount of adrenaline I ever had in my body as a child was when you would kill a legendary in Pokemon after doing the dungeon 3 times in a row, going up 70 floors 3 times in a row, and like you would knock them out, and then they would have the when you knock out an enemy in like a pixelated game, they start to like fade out. But like if the Pokemon stayed like in that, like they started flashing and then they stayed, like they didn't disappear all the way, then you knew that they were going to ask you to recruit them. And it was the best fucking feeling in the world. Oh my God. Holy shit. I still have never recruited Jirachi. But I did get to the end. No, and on the DS I never got to the end, but on the remakes, the Super Mystery Dungeon DX, I got to the end of that cave.
You remember the day I got Mystery Dungeon?
Yeah.
I got Red Rescue Team.
Yeah, and we were in your backyard with another friend of ours at the time, and we were all... I think you got Charmander on the first shot, didn't you?
You said I couldn't do it. You said there was no way I was going to get him. And we were in my room, and I was doing the questions, and I got Charmander. First fucking try.
I was very upset.
I still have pictures of that whole like birthday party.
Yeah.
In, like a photo book.
Yeah, that was insane. I like that birthday parties and getting presents was such a big deal because, like, dude, when your friend finally got the game that you've been wanting them to get so you can play it with them, it's the best feeling in the world. And then you play Mystery Dungeon, and it's just like, it was a magical experience. Like playing Mystery Dungeon for the first time, more so than any other Pokemon game for me.
I'm pretty sure Squirtle was my partner.
Yeah, I think so too.
Dude, that game was fucking hard.
Yeah.
Within like 3 dungeons, you're fighting Zapdos.
Yeah.
And like, if you're unprepared, like you get fucked up in that game.
Yeah, I mean, the Mystery Dungeon, like that style of games, monster houses. Oh my God.
The Groudon fight.
Yeah.
The goddamn Rayquaza fight. If you don't have 2 entire like bags of Reviver seeds, you're fucked.
Yeah, and you can only hold a certain amount of items per bag. And then if you lose in a battle, you lose everything in your bag. And it's like, okay, I got to start at the beginning of this dungeon. Or no, it's either I start at the checkpoint of this dungeon with none of my items or half my items, or I start at the beginning, which in some cases can be like a whole extra 25 levels or whatever.
Or you have your friend come like get you.
Yeah, and that's why it was really... It was also very beneficial to have friends with the Mystery Dungeon game. Was, if they were in the same spot of the game that you were and they happened to like be going through that dungeon, I don't know, man. It was rough, but it put some hair on your chest for sure.
Like the story. Remember that part where like they all think you're the cause of the end of the world?
Yeah.
And the town like attacks you, and you have to go on this long ass, like going through like constantly all these different dungeons like in a row.
Mm-hmm. It is a gauntlet for sure. And then you get to the end and they find out that you're not the reason that the world is about to end, but then you start to like die.
Yeah, you start to like fade away, and your character actually like texts, because the whole game you're like, your character just moves like Link in fucking Zelda.
Right.
So they never actually talk, but in that moment they actually like you talk like you know, on screen,
and then you die
and your partner starts crying.
Yeah.
My God, that was the saddest I ever got at a Pokemon game.
Well, and they don't even bring you back before the credits roll. Like you die and then the credits start to roll, and it's not until like the end of the credits that like you come back to life. And you get to keep playing the game. Dude, Mystery Dungeon games, at least those first 2, and we'll have to talk about Explorers of Time and Darkness and Sky the next time, but yeah, I would argue that those are probably like better games, but Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team, they just if they hadn't come out, I wouldn't have been nearly as hyped for the sequels.
The only thing that always annoyed me about those games is like when you want to evolve, your partner is never following you again because you have to like put them in their base, and then that's it. So if you ever want to evolve, like you lose that partner dynamic forever.
Yeah, I mean you can still bring them along with you to like dungeons and stuff.
Yeah. And you can like play as anyone, which I think was kind of cool.
Yeah, you get to play as your partner and then bring, like Nick on your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Fucking.
As far as Pokemon spin-offs go, this is definitely the best generation for them because we also got the first Pokemon Ranger game on the DS, and I played that not as much as Mystery Dungeon, but I really liked Pokemon Ranger.
Yeah, you remember how like badass it looked when you had like the dogs behind you?
Oh,
or the
yeah.
cats or whatever they are now.
Yeah, it's the part that sucks the most about those games is like I think you only get like a partner Pokemon. I think it's like your Pichu, something like that. But when you capture a Pokemon, you're only like basically borrowing them because you're just a ranger, So like you're basically like a wildlife specialist in that universe. So when you capture a Pokemon, they follow you around, but like you have to use them. They get like when you're in boss fights and stuff, like when you're capturing other Pokemon, depending on the type of Pokemon, it gives you a specific boost and like it helps, it either reduces the amount of circles that you need to get around a Pokemon or like stuns them in place for a little bit. But like the stronger the Pokemon, the stronger the effect. So if you caught legendaries, there was a part of you that never wanted to use them because then they would just go away. Yeah. Like you would have to recapture them. And in some cases, I don't think you could recapture some of those legendaries. I'm not sure.
Capturing, I think it was Entei or Raikou.
Oh
one of those
God.
two, it was the worst.
So bad. I think it was Entei because he kept putting up like pillars of fire like around him, and you had to, oh my God, and they kept like moving like in and out, and it was the worst. Yeah, but I did really like the idea of like they basically took like an NPC and gave you an entire game where you played as a Pokemon Ranger. Yeah. And then they made sequels to the Pokemon Ranger games, and like I don't know, man, Pokemon spin-offs, I think they go unappreciated for the most part. Some of them definitely go unappreciated, but this was the time where they got the love that they deserved because Pokemon started experimenting with a bunch of different style, like pinball. When pinball came out, I know there was like a pinball on the Game Boy, I think.
Yeah, there was.
But pinball, Ruby and Sapphire, I played the shit out of that too, just trying to like complete the Pokédex. And like I think on the cartridge that I have, I completed the Pokédex.
Like, you still have it. I remember playing it here not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I was just as addicted to it as ever.
Yeah, I still have it. It's just pinball, but like the goal, like you're supposed to catch different Pokemon and you catch them by hitting the ball, which is a Pokeball, like at them. Yeah, and then you can evolve Pokemon that you've already caught like in the same game that you started, using a different like bonus that they have on like the pinball face. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
and then there was goddamn Dash, which I play. I actually beat Dash.
I never played Pokemon Dash.
It was a pain in the ass because you had to keep swiping on the DS pad for them to run. I don't remember too much about it.
Yeah. But
like, I don't know. It was amusing, I guess. I just fucking hated like the DS, how all the games needed to use this. Like, I will never forgive Nintendo for fucking making Phantom Hourglass. Not to get off topic.
Yeah.
The Zelda game on the DS. How you could only move with the fucking stylus.
Right.
And it got so fucking annoying. I can't actually even play it.
Yeah.
And then there was the Coliseum games, which I played a little bit of the first one, but it's a different game entirely. Like, you start out with like Espeon and Umbreon, and you play as some dude. It's like the whole world is like post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
You go around and you gotta like there's like shadow energy or whatever on your Pokemon. You have to keep using certain moves to free them. I don't know. I didn't really like it, to be honest. But I do know it has like a following.
Yeah. Did Gale of Darkness also come out in Gen 3?
Sure
Shadow
did.
Lugia is such a cool... Oh, man. If Lugia's shiny wasn't just pink, I would say that Shadow Lugia should definitely be... Like, same thing with Primal Dialga in the sequels to Mystery Dungeon. There's so many, like, variations of Pokemon, like legendary Pokemon that are in spin-off games that, like, never get introduced in the mainline games. I think people would go fucking ape shit if, like, GameStop distributed, like, a Gale of Darkness, like, Lugia. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I would only use that Pokemon. Or, like... Yeah. Oh man. Or
sick.
Yeah. But
and with the GameCube, like, because they were on the GameCube. There was like the adapter where you can like plug it in and you can play your Game Boy games on the GameCube.
Yeah.
And I remember playing like Ruby and Sapphire like with the controller. It was awesome. It's fucking Gen 3. I'm telling you, it was the best time.
Yeah. My cousin KJ, he was the only person that I knew that had a GameCube, and I never got a home Nintendo console until the Switch. Like, I did not have a Wii. I didn't have a Wii U. I didn't have a GameCube. I didn't have an N64.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So but I was the biggest Pokemon fan. Like, I had a PS2. Then I got a 360 because I wanted to play Gears of War with you. And then I got an Xbox One. And then I switched over to a PS4. And then I got a Nintendo Switch. So I had all three major consoles at once for the first time in my life. And to this day, the Nintendo Switch is the one that I play the most. I think it's all of those lost years. Plus the IPs and like the games on them are just, they're really, really good. So again, not to get too off topic, but
one more thing about these games. The only friend I ever remember like meeting was my friend Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like everything about it, but like the first time I met him, I went to his house because his brother let me in, and he was walking down the stairs with a Game Boy, playing Ruby. I was like, "Yo, all right, we're dogs. That's it."
My man. Yeah, dude. Pokemon in Generation 3 was it. Pokemon was at the peak of its power. I think, like, they had made the first generation unexpected success. They made the sequel, probably one of the best sequels of all time, and then all of a sudden they had to make a third generation, and that's when I think they came to the realization that, like, oh shit, this is going to go on for a while. So once they realized that, all of these remakes started coming out, and all of the potential of Pokemon. I honestly think it was the start of modern Pokemon as we know it, like where the anime and the video games and the trading card series and all of the toys, they have to like line up, and the release of everything has to be like so calculated. Whereas the first two generations, I feel like it was more of an artistic endeavor. Not to say that Pokemon isn't an artistic endeavor now, but there's so much more money involved. And Gen 3 felt like the perfect cross section of like artistic endeavor and like creative power, and just they were going nuts with all of these ideas, and also like the peak curiosity of like people, you know, I feel like people started falling off the Pokemon train, but like our generation started getting on the train, you know, and it was just a very magical time to be a Pokemon fan.